Morning, Neo Swedenborgians. Today I'm going to talk about a subject I talk about, which is doing musical battle, essentially. Um, I've done shows about Jabo Smith, and I've done shows about the idea of a cutting contest in jazz, and it's a kind of, it can be seen as a kind of warfare. Um, and I am suggesting that the times we live in are becoming so dangerous that we need to find a non-dangerous way to conduct our battles. And I want to point something interesting out about the violin versus a handgun, like a pistol of some sort. I don't even want to show a pistol because I want to live in a world where they're not here. And what we can do with all these pistols and is we can melt them down because they're very high quality steel. And what we can make out of them is violin strings. So I suggest what we do is we melt these pistols down and turn them into violin strings, or guitar strings, or steel guitar strings. But that's not what I was going to say today. What I want to point out today is this kind of spectrum. From one end, something that is this dangerous versus fragile. So on this end we have fragile, harmless, and on this end we have not fragile and dangerous. And I want to point out something very important. The very important thing is that when you have a violin in your presence, the violin is very fragile. The top of the violin is very thin, millimeters thick, 2 or 3 millimeters. And this little bit, this bridge it's called, is not connected. It's actually just held down with pressure. So this bridge can fall. This top, which is only a few millimeters thick, can break. There's a sound post inside which can also fall. The back can break. This thing can become crooked. These things can become loose. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong with the violin, so it has to be handled with care. Okay? So on this spectrum from fragile and harmless to not fragile and dangerous, the violin is closer to the fragile end than the human. Okay, so as humans, we are kind of dangerous and harder to break, more dangerous and harder to break than a violin. So you can stumble on a violin and break it. You can accidentally break it. You can break it on purpose. A human can break a violin quite easily because we are less fragile and more dangerous. And this thing is more fragile and less dangerous. I bring this up on the same subject that I'm on, which is these handguns. Okay, a handgun is a piece of steel, most likely, or super hard plastic. It's something very hard, and it holds within it these little charges, which when they explode, throw a block of lead really fast. So you have lead and steel and an explosive of some sort. And so this handgun is a dangerous thing to have around. And either on purpose or accidentally, um, these handguns can destroy you just the way you can destroy this violin. Okay, so what I'm suggesting by not having a handgun anywhere here, I'm suggesting we create things, we create places where we have things around us which are more fragile than us. See, a human is less fragile. Wait, what's the word? A human is more fragile than a handgun. A human life can just go like that. To destroy a handgun, it's a block of steel. You know, it takes some work to destroy a handgun. It doesn't take much at all to destroy a human being, right? So we are more fragile than the handgun, and the violin is more fragile than us, right? That's what I'm saying. And so what I'm saying is we should move away from these things which are so dangerous to us. We shouldn't sing about them. We shouldn't put them in our movies. We shouldn't think about them. We should avoid them, just like, I don't know, like what? Like something from the Stone Age. You know, it's like basically carrying around a rock tied to a stick. Right? If you picture the Stone Age man with a stick and there's a rock tied to the end of it, um, you wouldn't really carry one of those around, would you? And that's essentially what these handguns are. They are rocks, which are the balls of lead within this projectile. I mean, this force creator, which is what the stick is. The stick takes the rock, and you have force. The gun is just a rock on a stick. So the stick is the gun, which creates the force, and the rock is the piece of lead. So I'm suggesting let's leave the Stone Age behind and stop throwing rocks at each other, which is basically what all this gunfire is, you know, and let's enter more like a wood age, because wood is fragile, and to be around things like this, you have to learn to be gentle with the thing. But then when you get your music out, you can fight, duke it out like that.